There's lots of chaos going on, lots of craziness on a day-to-day basis. I bet there are strong opinions on this. There are reports, this was the Time magazine cover, that we have brought back, a company has. I read all about this yesterday. I was fascinated by it yesterday afternoon. The dire wolf, which is a bigger wolf than the traditional wolf, has been, thanks to using DNA code, a company is saying they have brought the dire wolf back from extinction after 10,000 years. Now, many of you are going to be familiar with the idea of the dire wolf because you watched Game of Thrones, and the wolves in that Game of Thrones multi-year saga grew into gigantic killing machines from small puppies. So I wanted to dive into this, Buck. Back in the day when you and I were young, the book, before they made the movie, Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, the entire concept is that they're able to take the DNA of the dinosaurs from these, if I remember correctly, mosquitoes frozen in amber, and that they are then able to extract that DNA to create new dinosaurs. And obviously, the Jurassic Park franchise, in terms of movies, has remained incredibly durable and powerful for 30 some odd years because lots of people remain fascinated by dinosaurs in general. Lots of little boys, although not lots of little girls too. I remember, I think you said your nephew knows everything about dinosaurs. When I was a little kid, I knew everything about dinosaurs. There is a great deal of interest still, obviously, in the Jurassic universe.
Yes, and there are other species that could already be brought back. I think aren't they working on
The
mastodons
woolly
or
mammoth
right?
for sure, maybe the
Or woolly mammoths?
mastodon. The woolly mammoth, I think, is basically going to happen. In the article that I read, they are going to bring back the saber-toothed tiger. They are going to
That's a little
they're going to bring back. So my question, I'm fascinated by what the reaction of this audience too, good or bad. And let me give you a question to think about this, Buck. I was just out in Colorado over spring break, and I bet we have a lot of people listening in Colorado right now, and I know this has turned into a major issue all over the West. They have reintroduced wolves in lots of states and communities where the wolf had basically been eradicated. And if you have a ranch, ranchers are furious about this because suddenly, what I was told, I was in Colorado, they're like, yeah, everybody in Boulder and Denver decided they wanted to vote to bring back wolves. And all the people who live in rural Colorado were like, thanks, jerks. Like, we have no interest in bringing back wolves. And suddenly our livestock are getting killed and we're having to worry about something that we had eradicated. My thought is now these dire wolves, there are 3 of them that they say they have brought back, 2 boys and that they named Romulus and Remus, and 1 girl pup. Will they, like in Jurassic Park, eventually find their way out, and then they're suddenly circulating in the community? They say that the dire wolf basically covered all of North America back in the day. 10,000
Mhm.
years ago, if you were out, this thing was from Canada all the way down into South America. They basically roamed free. They were wiped out about 10,000 years ago. What is your take on the idea, not only of the dire wolf, saber-toothed tiger, woolly mammoth, bringing back extinct animals, good or bad move? What's your take?
Well, I love the book Jurassic Park, as all of you know, and so I find this a fascinating entry into the scientific annals that is going on right now. I think that, man, the truth is this the same way that I've never been to Africa, but I love knowing that there's all these incredible. I'm sorry, I have been to Africa. That's not true, but I've never been on safari in Africa. But that I've been to places where there are no safaris. I've been to some rough parts of Africa, but I've never done safari. But I love knowing that there are lions and hippopotami and all that stuff. So I think that it's tough for us to separate out the concept of it. This is where when you brought up the ranchers, I think that's very
Yeah.
apropos, the concept of it versus the reality of it. A saber-tooth tiger is fine until a saber-tooth tiger eats your grandma. And then you're pretty in. This actually came up. If you do you remember when I think it was Cecil the lion was the big story, and
Oh, they
Jimmy
killed it
Kimmel.
and it was like a
Jimmy
huge, like,
Kimmel was crying on TV about Cecil the lion in Africa, who on a lawful hunt was shot.
yes, I remember this.
And it was, yeah, and, it's like Cecil the lion is crying. And look, I love animals, so I get that. And there's something that's, like I love my little dog Ginger so much, and yet I'm gonna eat lamb chops tonight for dinner. Like, I understand some of this stuff we get a little. It's about sentimentality over the pure logic, okay? But that all said, there was a really interesting Wall Street Journal article that I remember from that time, written by I think he was a student at Harvard or Princeton, who was like, you know what lions mean in my
Yeah,
village?
I read this piece.
People get
Yeah.
eaten. Like, this isn't a game to us. Like, we actually have to control the population because they'll eat your dad.
Yeah.
They'll eat
Yes.
your sister. Like, this is a real thing that happens to real people, which reminds me of that movie, Ghost in the Darkness, based on a true story. And I know you all know this. And you can go see the stuffed carcasses of those lions in a zoo in a museum in
Wasn't
Chicago. I
Val
think it's like
Kilmer in
Chicago.
that movie that just died?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was a Val Kilmer movie with Michael Douglas. Kind of a weird casting of Michael Douglas. But anyway, Val Kilmer was good in it. And that's based on a true story.
Yeah.
I mean, these lions became habituated to eating people, and they're like, wow, people are slow and kind of weak. Like, let's just eat them instead. So this is all a way to say, I think should we bring back dodo birds? Yeah, totally. Like, should we bring back species but this is where you also get into Clay. I'm here in South Florida, and you have the boa constrictors and also what do you call them? The big they look like little dragons on the
Anaconda.
street. Iguanas. Yeah,
Okay.
iguanas. Yeah. And they are invasive. Well, boas are definitely an invasive species. I think iguanas are too. I don't think they're native to here. They're basically pets that have escaped, and now they're killing all the native ecosystem animals off. So you have to go hunt them and deal with them. True thing also, that little brown bird that you guys all think of, the European house sparrow, probably the most common bird in the entire United States. It's everywhere. Little kind of brown,
Yeah, yeah.
squat bird. Invasive species from Europe, and they have killed off a lot of native bird species because they will break into another bird's nest and break their eggs. They're mean.
Fuck.
They're mean little birds.
The honeybee is an invasive species.
Well, but we like honeybees.
get
This is the point, right?
Yeah,
we like
but
the honeybees.
but
So we
people
got to
don't
make sure.
realize this. North America, until colonization, had no honeybees anywhere. And then they slowly spread across the entirety of the North American continent. But they were a invasive species that otherwise didn't exist here.
Some of you will remember this too. There was a fear about fire ants and how they're going to keep spreading up, and they're dangerous to people if you step on one of their anthills. And there was a briefly discussed proposal that I remember reading about. The only real natural predators for the fire ants, they were thinking maybe we should introduce. It's a South American anteater, which has like 6-inch long claws and weighs like 200 pounds. And then they're like, well, if we introduce that, what's its natural predator? Jaguars. So if you create all these
food
problems,
chain gets dangerous. Okay, so I am in favor of this. Here is my thing.
Can you have a direwolf as a pet? Yes or no?
No,
Once they
no,
reintroduce these.
no. I'm in favor of it only for keeping them in captivity. And I understand some of you are going to say, yeah, that's the whole point of Jurassic Park. But I like it also for endangered species now, because in theory, it would mean there should be no animal that actually vanishes, right? You should be able to get the existing DNA of all animals that are alive on Earth today, and we should be able to create a genetic Noah's Ark of all living animals here today and be able to create them. Now, I don't want, I think about this in terms of the farmers out there and the ranchers. The idea that you would reintroduce grizzly bears or wolves that are going to attack my livestock is, I think, different than this.
Well,
I would not reintroduce
something else that would be on the docket here. Go, I believe it's called a short-faced bear. Go look up the short-faced bear, and it's like a grizzly bear times 3. It's a massive land predator that they could also, along with the saber. It's from the same era as a saber-toothed tiger. They could also bring that one back. And I think that you're starting to see. We definitely don't want that, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's going to be. The same way that polar bears hunt people. It's really the only North American land animal. Yeah, I know grizzlies can. Wolf has never actually attacked it. Healthy wolves have never attacked a human being in the history of North America, is at least what you, that's what they, I know some of you are going to say no, but that's what they say. Okay. That's what the official statistics are, that wolves won't attack people if they're healthy. If they're rabid, that's different. Um, Polar bears see you and they're like food. They don't. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And the same thing would be true of a short-faced bear. So
Let me
something to
hit you
think
with
about.
this one, Buck. My boys are obsessed with the megalodon, which is just a giant shark. In theory, the dire wolf can be kept inside of a fenced enclosure and everything else. My concern on this would be that we would start to create big, massive animals that are in the water, and those are a lot harder to control. Have you ever been to, say, for instance, the Atlanta Aquarium where they have the whale sharks? You know, they've never been able to, for instance, keep, I believe this is still true, a great white shark in captivity. They're
Yes.
impossible to keep inside of museums or aquariums, anything like that. My concern is that some of these that we will create will get out. And can you imagine a world where suddenly you have, instead of a great white shark, you've got the megalodon suddenly like rolling around in the ocean deep? That starts to get a little bit scarier to me, but I think it's the reality of where we are going. I think you're going to see all of these extinct animals genetically, us able to bring them back. Now, one more thing as we go to break. Some people are saying this is not the real animal because of the way they're doing the DNA coding. And that gets way more complicated and above my pay grade. But I have read some of those critiques as well.
There's an organization we want to tell you about. Clay and I are both members of it, the United States Concealed Carry Association. I conceal carry down here in Florida. And let me tell you, friends, if you're going to do that, you know this, you have a big responsibility. And even if you are exercising that responsibility with the utmost care and lawful authority as a citizen, heaven forbid, you could find yourself facing huge court fees. Okay. That's just reality. So you want to have someone to have your back. That's where USCCA comes in handy. They're the newest sponsor on this program, and they do something that is critical for any of you who own a firearm. Honestly, download USCCA's free guide. You can do that even before you become a member if you'd like. This isn't a gimmick, it's tangible, practical information about protecting yourself, your rights to defend yourself, and how to look after yourself legally if that becomes an issue. And that's where USCCA can really step in to help you, because otherwise, people who defend themselves in a firearms related incident, they can go bankrupt. You need to have USCCA. Go to uscca.com/buck to get your free guide today from United States Concealed Carry Association. That's uscca.com/buck.